What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Virzi Effect podcast show. My name is Paul Virzi, and you guys listening to episode 513. I hope everybody is doing well. I don't know why this needs to be bigger. I don't know. Anyway, you guys listening to episode 513. Like I said, I have a guest coming on. The lights being weird, whatever. But I have a guest coming on. He'll be joining any minute. You guys know him and you love him. So hold on. He's actually texting me right now saying it's not working. Check new email. But I wanted to address real quick what happened, what's going on in Boston. Unfortunately, early this week, we realized that we had to reschedule some things in Boston, guys. And I just wanted to thank all the people that bought tickets. So many people reached out to me about what's going on. It was due to circumstances that are completely out of my control. We will be back at the Wilbur. We will reschedule it. So I'm very, very sorry. Again, I just, things I don't want to go into, but out of my control, and we will do it again. I'm very, very sorry. And let's admit my buddy into the show. There he is. Hold on. Oh, there he is. There he is. Can you hear me, buddy? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, there we go, everybody. We're running. We're on, bud. We're on. We are recording right now, ladies and gentlemen. I told you I was going to have a guest on, and this is not just any guest of the Virzi Effect. This is a dear friend. This is one of somebody who makes me laugh harder than many people in the world. Most people in the world, I should say. He is the talented. He is the one and only Mr. Yannis Pappas. Yanni, thank you for being on TVE. And we tried to do this in my studio. What can you do? It's a little small.
It's a little small. You didn't even give me a chance to fix my hair, so I had to use the camera as a mirror. You ever do that on a podcast where you check yourself out in your own screen?
Yeah, but I got to be honest, man. I have no sympathy for guys like you when I have no hair. It's like you get to have a messy head. You get to have a messy head of hair, but it's still there. You could still do this shit. And I got to be honest with you. You're holding a tight line. I mean, you're holding a nice line.
Yeah, I mean, my hair's kind of thin, so people always thought I was going to lose it. I always thought I was going to lose it from when I was little. And the kid that used to make fun of me, telling me I was going to lose it, he lost it, and I'm still holding strong. Only one conclusion: superior Greek genes. You got them too. What can we do?
You got superior Greek genes. Well, here's the thing, though. Did your mother's father have a full head? And I know your pop, rest his soul. He had a full head too, right?
Kid was rocking a full head till he was 91. But you can always go toupee. You can always get a full head if you want. You can buy one. You can always go with the toupee. You can always put a toupee on.
Yeah, here's the thing. The only thing is, I get taking it off is really, because the funny thing about wearing a piece is that it's that you look, your real person, like when you take it off, you look like a completely different. I mean, it might as well be a mask. It might as well be a face mask, actually, because that's how different of a person you look.
Yeah, you can't get into any scraps, no matter what. No matter what, you can't get into any scraps because the toupee is going to move.
Dude,
so you have whatever. I mean, that's it. If you wear a toupee and God forbid somebody said something to your wife or whatever, you got to let it slide because you got to say, honey, we got to talk this out just because I can't scrap. I can't risk.
Please God, do that as a joke. Please God, do that as a bit, because I've never heard a comedian say that. And that is the God's honest truth. You can't rock a piece and then go out and get into a fight. It just can't happen.
You can't have it. God forbid, it looks like you got a cat in your face when it falls down.
Oh, there are YouTube videos. There are YouTube videos of like little kids or people pulling off a piece, and it's tough. That's a tough one, dude.
Yeah, I don't, I guess not many people rock pieces anymore. I guess the people who do, you got to have less income, because I don't know what Elon Musk did, but him and LeBron James, they must go to the same doctor, because they just have full heads of hairs, and that's not a piece.
Well, no,
I mean,
no.
Elon Musk was bald.
Yeah, what's it called? Deion Sanders got it done too. Brian Urlacher, who used to be the linebacker for the Bears. There's a thing now that they do without cutting you. They used to cut a strip of the back of your head and use it as donor hair. Now there's like robots that can take hair without cutting you, put it up top. I mean, we are in a different thing. But see, remember in Goodfellas? Goodfellas came out in 91, which means it was made in like 90. When he said Maury's wigs don't come off and he jumped backwards in the pool. That's like people like 80s and 90s, when there really was no solution to having a full head. I mean, you have a full head, dude. You have a full, like, and you don't even do there's shit like you have a nice line, dude. You're in your mid 40s?
Yeah, something like that, early 40s, mid 40s, late 30s.
What are you 41?
41. I think I'm about 41.
I mean,
what's funny is,
yeah,
what's funny is Marv Albert, he's such an old school toupee wearer, where he's got the toupee matching the, when, bald guys look like their hairlines look like they're sitting on a public tail. It looks like a public toilet seat, it just comes around like that. And you match the toupee with the public toilet seat.
Yeah.
When the new technology came out, he was like one of those old guys who probably just didn't understand the new technology and just stayed with the toupee because it was his look for so long. Kind of like when a new iPhone comes out and an old guy's just like, I'm going to stick with the Nokia. I can't learn all this new stuff. He just stayed with the toupee.
Yo, yeah, there's a couple of old school. I heard, I don't know if this is true. I mean, there's a lot of people in like old school sports and casters and newscasters that rock pieces, but it's like you said, you get grandfathered in.
You get grandfathered in, you get too used to it. It's like learning what the kids are doing. It's too complicated for you. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing. Nothing's funnier to me than a fart number one, toupee number two. And then three is just whatever funny comedian is doing funny jokes, but nothing. We're all just chasing the fart. Make no mistake. We're chasing a fart and a rug piece.
So the fart is the Jordan. It's the GOAT.
It's the GOAT. It's the king of comedy.
So, all right. So yeah. So the fart is the GOAT. That's really funny. But the funny thing about a toupee is you got to account for it. Like your socks, your underwear, then you got to get your keys, and you got to account for like it's when you grab things to go, you just got to make sure it is kind of funny to get out the shower, put on drawers, then socks or whatever, and then throw your hair on. It's really funny. It's really funny. And you probably got to throw it on after you put a shirt on, which is hilarious.
Yeah, you got to definitely after you put the shirt on. Make no mistake, it has happened many times where guys who rock pieces have gotten halfway to work, had an important meeting, forgot the toque, and had to go all the way back. There's no way. When you wear a toque, you don't get seen without a toque. So even like if you forgot to put it on and you got to catch a flight, guess what? You just lost $400. You're not going to Florida. You got to go back and get the toque. You got to go back and get the toque once you realize you don't have the piece on.
You're right about that. You never see somebody who rocks the toque like without it.
You can't. You
like
can't.
The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, you're just like a mystery. It's so funny. Yeah,
you can't. It's like a guy with sleep apnea trying to sleep without his sleep mask. You just, it's like risking death. You don't do it. You can't be seen with the public toilet seat when you got a toque.
Yanni, me and you live near each other, near New Hampshire, and right, we're kind of not far from New Hampshire and stuff, but you love the country, right? This is something because so just so the listeners know, Yannis is a guy that grew up in Brooklyn and was in Brooklyn for decades and never really resided outside of New York City. And then now the kid lives in the woods. And I got to be honest, you're adjusting and you're getting acclimated more than anybody. You would say to me, Giannis will call me up and be like, dude, is it going to be weird up there? Like, am I going to, and now, I mean, I don't think that we could get you out of here. I don't think we could get you out of here.
I feel like I live in paradise. I really do. And when you live in New York City, you just have Stockholm syndrome. It's like you've been kidnapped by somebody and you don't know anything else. So you start to love the place you're at. When you leave, you realize that, oh, I was a prisoner there. Yeah, me and you were a couple of local New York comics. Thank God New York is one of the big comedy cities, because otherwise we'd be like those local comics in Minnesota or Boston and stuff. You'd have a Red Sox thing behind you instead of a Giants thing. We're a couple kids. We're on the periphery in New York City.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. It's like, and now it's daunting. It's actually a daunting thought to leave. Like when you think about going to a borough, or if somebody's like, hey, come and do my podcast in Queens, or like come to this thing and shoot this thing in Brooklyn, or do a photo shoot in Manhattan, anything that you hear like that you have to travel down there, it's actually daunting, and you don't want to do it. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And especially once you have a kid, you have kids, you get it. It's like, work starts to feel like work because you're away from your kids. So before, comedy felt, occasionally it would feel like work, but mostly it's just like one of the funnest jobs ever. Although it's very hard. I think a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh, I should become a comedian. It's like very hard, but it's fun. But then once you have kids, then it really starts to feel like work because you're away from your kids. So you're like, I got to go to work. And so there's that element of like, that's why they call it work. It's like, that's why I really hate all these like motivational speakers who are like, if it feels like work, you're not doing the right thing, go out, start a business, do it. It's like, guy, not everyone's going to love their job. It's like, that's why they call it a job. It's why it's called work, because it's not fun. Like, not everyone's going to be, doing the thing that they love. It's like, why don't you give public speeches about how, hey, man, why don't you improve your social life? Why don't you and your family find other, do something, start doing Dungeons and Dragons with neighbors. I don't know what it is, but like, stop making people feeling bad for having normal, regular jobs. I mean, those people are more normal than we are. I mean, look at us. We're neurotic. We got anxiety. It's like, normal people are the real heroes of this world.
Yeah. But do you think, let me ask you this question though. Do you think that, because they say comedians are crazy, not crazy, but they say, they say what you just touched on. Comedians are depressed and anxiety. I know I have that. I know I have OCD, some anxiety, little things like that. But do you think that everybody, instead of thinking comedians do and just comedians, I think everybody has a piece of it though. And I think we found something to kind of, we have an ability. We have an ability to kind of, that for some reason we can give people joy. But I know people that are have regular jobs that have OCD and depression, dude, and anxiety.
No, it's true. No, it's definitely true. There are people who have that, but comedians definitely, like, those are some people. It's like a few lawyers will have that, but it's like all comedians have some type of crazy. That's what makes you it's part and parcel of what makes you a comedian. You can't be a normal person and end up becoming a comedian. It's not a normal job to want to be. You got to be broken in some way, because you got to need the laughs. There's a reason why you need that to feel
the acceptance. There's acceptance.
There's something, you're trying to stave off the depression or the loneliness or whatever it is, you're broken in some way. They did that study, psychologists, and they found like comedians were like all mentally ill. There's a truth to that. There's definitely a truth to that. I mean, there are some people, of course, who are mentally ill who aren't comedians, but I mean, most of the people are not, whereas all comedians are in their own unique way.
Yeah, I think it's in but there is a reason why Prozac and fucking Zoloft and whatever it is, selects all those things. That's a big market, and I know a lot of people who aren't comedians on that shit. But I think we also have a talent and an ability to maybe even put a band-aid on it for us. Make no mistake about this, Yannis, us going into a room and making people laugh and crushing and seeing people laughing because of us, that puts a band-aid on our wound a little bit.
Yeah. I think some of that Prozac stuff is cultural too. I mean, I think it's cultural.
You do.
America loves pills. Yeah. It's just,
Yeah.
if we got a big pharmaceutical industry, they throw the doctors a few free pens and they say, hey, why don't, the next time somebody walks in and says they had a fight with their wife, why don't you toss them a little fucking happy candy?
Yeah, that's true. We are big on pharma in this country for sure. Big time, actually.
Big time. Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
I wanted to talk about this because we did this the other night, and there are a couple things we'll touch on, but dude,
we watched the Halloween movie.
Yeah, me and Yannis. I went to Yannis's house the other night, the middle of the night, and we watched a little bit of the Laker game, and then we decided to watch the new Mike Myers joint. And I got to tell you something. I mean, it was so bad, and the acting was so bad, and the storyline was so bad. But I got to tell you, watching the kid catch bodies it's not a Halloween season without watching Eminem catch bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, when the kid catches a body, though, he does catch one.
Yeah. There's a new job opportunity that they should create. The horror movie industry should pay Black people to sit in the theater so you can watch a horror movie to really enjoy it, because horror movies are the worst movies. They're so bad that they're funny, but what takes them to another level is when you're watching it in a theater with Black people. So Black people should get paid to attend those movies, then you pay a higher price to go enjoy it in a movie theater with Black people, because there's nothing better than watching a horror movie with Black people. They make it the experience.
No, it's so funny, and it is true though when Black comedians say things like only white people do that. Like there was one scene. I don't want to do a spoiler alert. There was one scene where
Let me tell you this right now. You will be spoiling nothing if you say there's one scene where a white guy goes into the trouble. No, that's expected.
No, but not the scene where he went into the trouble. They were already in the trouble. And it was the first time I actually ever seen it. I think you pointed it out. They locked themselves in.
Yeah.
So they were already in the scary scene with Mike Myers in the house. They already did the thing that everybody says the white people. But then he looked over at his lover and he goes, "There's somebody in the house." And then the lover just locked the door as if we're gonna get him. And that was actually the first time that I ever seen that. Now I got to ask you this: have you watched Squid Game? How far along are you?
I've watched the first episode.
Okay,
and it's incredible. So don't give me any spoiler alerts.
No, I can't wait for you to. I can't wait for you to have all 9 episodes under the belt, and then we could talk about it. And if you liked one that much, you're gonna really like the thing. And it's a big phenomenon, dude. It really is. But it just lets you know, man, that it took that guy 10 years to make that. It lets you know, man, if you got an idea, how crazy is that 10 years, it took him 10 years to get, like, nobody wanted it. Everybody was like, what is this? This is just ultra violent. Nobody's going to care. It's way too violent. And now it's, I think, like the number one phenomenon in like 70 countries. And the guy said that, I heard it was so stressful to make the first season that he doesn't even know if he wants to do 2. And it's like the biggest global thing. That's how crazy. I'm sure he's going to get the money to do 2, but
what I learned from watching it too is that Asians must have had the best sense of humors of any ethnic group in history. But what happened is the joke just got old. Because when they created their language, I think they stuck to that. Like whoever created that language was a really funny kid.
Yeah.
And when people were learning the language, they just all they decided to go with him creating the language because it was so funny. Because there's no way when you first hear any Asian language, it's funny sounding. It's just funny sounding. Like one of the funniest jokes I ever heard is like Sergio Chacon he goes, I told my Chinese friend once, he was like, yo, I don't speak Chinese, but yo, if I can I just start making sounds and see if I get lucky and say something by accident?
I remember you had that one bit where you talked about like wars or like how there'd be no wars at accents, but when you did the Japanese guy and you said like he blew out his back. And or like, and then I heard one other comedian just went like, "Oh, see what?" He goes, "What is that?" It is.
It sounds funny. It's comical. It's really the way they go. What you? Like
and
they
it
make
means
those
a lot.
Yeah,
and it means a lot. 2 syllables means a lot. I'm doing a set I'm doing a joke in my hour about the most entertaining voices. And that one is a really good one. But the thing about Squid Game that I think is incredible, it's incredible what they did is to make American, reading those subtitles, and they go fast. And I heard that they don't even nail it as far as like they said, like, no, so you don't even know the character yet, but you'll see as it goes on. It's really hard for them to get the Korean, the essence of what they're saying and nail it with the subtitles. And the fact that that's still an obstacle and this many people are into it just lets you know how fucking good it is, and I didn't want to watch it. I'm like, I'm not watching this shit. And then I watched it and I was like, everybody's got to see this shit.
It's funny, probably when it's probably on the black market in North Korea and a couple people have it. And they just think in North Korea, the people that have watched it probably just think it's a documentary. They're going, this is a documentary about us. That's just probably how it is in North Korea.
Yeah, dude. Well, you said something about them having a good sense of humor. Japanese prank shows are the funniest things I've ever seen. There's nothing.
One of the funniest things I saw is a game where both women had to blow in a tube and there was a live cockroach in the middle and they're both blowing, to keep the cockroach away and put it in the other girl's mouth until someone just wins and the cockroach just shoots into their mouth and then they squeal. It's hilarious.
No,
they got great sense of humor. The language is funny, and then it just got old, so that's why they don't laugh at it anymore because jokes get old.
Dude, the one you saw the one of the guy at the job interview. It's one of the funniest things. It's actually, I'm not even joking around. It's one of the furthest jokes. You've never seen a joke go further. So a guy goes into a building. He's actually in a building, and I don't know what floor he's on, and it's all glass and all these Japanese, and he really is going for a real job interview. He's really sitting there for a real job interview. And he's sitting there. There's 4 dudes in suits, and they're talking to get this guy a job. And he's nervous. He's buttoned up. And all of a sudden, the glass breaks, and one of the guys gets shot in the chest, and blood flies everywhere. And the guy just goes, "What?" And all of a sudden, and they all get assassinated. Then smoke goes, and a SWAT team flies in. I mean, Jesus Christ, Jesus, dude! When I tell you that. I can't believe he didn't have a heart attack. I can't believe he didn't have a heart attack because it was a true, like, imagine sitting there and then you see people get assassinated, then smoke goes off, and then a SWAT team comes in and he's just on the ground, and you see the people that set him up in another control room hysterical laughing, and the guy like thought he was going to lose his life. I was fucking crying, dude. I was crying.
It's funny. That stuff is real funny. And it's funny how, when I was when I worked for Fusion, which was owned by Univision, I got exposed to sort of the Mexican sense of humor, which is also very like pranky and costumes and hacky. It's funny to see like how more advanced American comedy is than a lot of those other cultures that do a lot of that kind of, because, Montreal, you remember those prank shows? Those were some of the, like that Montreal Just for Laughs had that clips page of just
called
like all those pranks
or something. Yeah.
And they were hilarious. I mean, pranks are hilarious, but make no mistake, it is the lowest common denominator of comedy.
Pranking somebody.
Yeah. I would say pranking, and like, if you watch like one of those Mexican morning shows, like guy comes in with a chicken costume and they do like very hacky things. But yeah, I mean, prank comedy it's a guaranteed hit. You go to any prank YouTube channel on the internet, millions of views. People, it's like watching a good car crash. Like you can't not watch it.
Yeah. And do you know who made that blueprint? One of the biggest blueprints of that. And it started in the 80s. And I remember it was America's Funniest Videos with Bob Saget.
Yeah.
Because when America's Funniest Videos came, that's why that show still exists to this very day. I think like Carlton from Fresh Prince, he's been hosting it forever. Okay. But that people sending in people, dude, my wife, Stacy watches, if Stacy watches a model in high heels fall, my wife cannot handle a fall. You know, the way you said like a fart or a piece, Stacy cannot handle a fall. If somebody goes down and takes a header, especially like she can't handle it. And I think that's why, dude, that's why it's like you said, it's a no miss. It's a never miss.
It's just a no miss. You can't not crush with a good prank. And you can't not watch it. Whenever you see like one of those, like when the headlines like white guy goes to the hood and tells girlfriend she has a fat ass, it's like there's no way you're not clicking to see if that guy gets punched in the head. It's impossible. It's impossible not to click.
It's like having one Dorito. It's just
it's
not,
like
you're not. It's actually impossible. It's actually impossible.
It's impossible to scroll past that. It's impossible.
All right. Now here's something that I want to talk to you about. I was thinking about you last night because I'm going to say I have a little bone to pick with you. It's been something that's been an elephant in the room of our friendship. And, you know, we're dear friends. I've known you now maybe a decade, right? So whatever it is, maybe more. And
more than a decade.
More than a decade.
Since I met you,
yeah, we've been friends, and we're close. We're so close now, our families. And there's just been something lingering on, and it's not affecting our friendship. It bugs me though. And the reason why I was thinking about you last night is because last night I took my son Lucas. One thing that me and my son Lucas do is we bond through the Madison Square Garden. We bond through the New York Knicks. Okay. Now, last night was opening day. When me and you met, I don't know if you remember, one of the first things we bonded by was we had the same sports team. It was the Giants. It was the Yankees. It was the Knicks. We talked about it at 2 Christmas parties, Caroline's and then comics. Okay. I go into the Knicks. Now, listen, I will admit this. I have been very positive about Knick acquisitions for a while because I've been so hurt, like you, that I try to say, okay, then we get this guy Thibodeau, makes us play defense. We win 41 games. Julius Randle get an MVP chance. He becomes an all-star. J.R. Barrett. Now we put in some pieces. This kid, Kemba Walker, and the Evan Fournier kid who threw up 32 last night in double overtime.
Don't expect that every night from Fournier. Don't expect that every night.
No. It was a career. But I'll tell you what, though. It was nice to see Julius Randle have a little bit outlet and not have to be the guy and kick it out to these guys. We played. Jaylen Brown had 42 points. Okay. The New York Knicks, Madison Square Garden, packed, rocking last night. And I got to tell you something. Thibodeau, I think it's the coach. I think it's the difference. If you notice, Dolan's been out. If you noticed, since Thibodeau came in and this new guy, the Worldwide West guy, I think they said, Dolan, you just can't be seen. I think they literally just said you can't be seen. But we win in double overtime. Place is going nuts. What's it going to take? I mean, what is it going to take to get Yannis Pappas back on board? Is it going to take 2 rounds of playoffs, or are you going? Because here's the thing, Yannis, if they win and there's a parade, what are you going to do?
Well, you're talking about a deep, deep trauma that I would have to get over. You know, we're talking about a deep trauma. I abandoned the Knicks. I don't know. We bonded on having the same teams as the Yankees and the Giants because the Knicks haven't been my team since 1999. I abandoned the Knicks in 1999 after the Larry Johnson 4-point play, after they lost to the Spurs in the finals. I abandoned the Knicks. I had enough. The next year after that, the Kiki Vandeweghe years, but you could see the Knicks just have a horrible culture. Much like the Giants now. They just.
Are you hurt? Did it hurt you?
It hurt. The Bulls hurt me. Everything hurt me. Patrick Ewing's missed layup hurt me. All the infamous plays hurt me.
And guys, to anybody,
the pump fakes.
Yeah, to anybody listening to this right now, I just want to make this very clear. When Yannis says it hurts him, like
it hurts me.
We watched a 1-game playoff against Houston one time in a bar in the city, and I'm going up to the bathroom because the Yankees just lost. I went to go take a piss before I left, and Yannis just goes, it actually hurts. And I remember being in the bathroom laughing because you were actually devastated.
I was devastated. Like the Giants beating the Patriots was 2 of the best nights of my life. I'll say that was 2 of the happiest times I've ever felt. 2 of the most amazing sporting events. And it actually brought me, because I'm a guy, I go all in. When I love something, I love it like so passionately that it kind of scares people. I'm like all in. All in. So it's just the reason why I rejected the Knicks now is because of the trauma. It was just, then it started, and it started slowly. It started early with the Kiki Vandeweghe acquisitions, the Rolando Blackmans. The Knicks are kind of like the Statue of Liberty. It's like, give us your poor, you're hungry, you're about to retire, you're injured. They'll take whatever scraps the NBA has to offer and give them fucking huge money. The Amari Stoudemire's. It just keeps happening. A guy gets a big knee injury, there's a good chance you're going to see him in the Garden. There's a good chance. Derrick Roses, they keep coming over. So, and that's when I just jumped ship. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. It was like being with like a woman who's a cutter, who likes to cut herself. It's just like masochistic. It's like, I can't do this. I can't give you my heart anymore.
You can't. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I started to jump in the late 90s when I became a Utah Jazz fan. I loved the way they played. And then after 99, the whole 21st century, I don't watch a lot of Knicks games.
Yeah.
Then Carmelo Anthony, it just doesn't end. It just doesn't fucking end.
Yeah. I mean, look, I understand. What I did was I didn't take it the way what I did was, as a Knicks fan, is, when they were bad and they were out of it by fucking Thanksgiving, I just watched from afar. I would tune in, they'd be down 20 on Christmas and it'd be a wrap. And I would just tune in and see, and then I would get a little excited. But you know what, man, I will tell you this, Julius Randle being 26 years old, RJ Barrett being 21 years old. They did some nice things, a couple of nice picks. And then, I like that they got maturity on the bench, Kemba Walker and D Rose coming off the bench. So it's nice to at least watch a competent team that plays defense. And when you have that, and I got to tell you, man, the Knicks fans are hungry, dude. It was on ESPN last night. Everybody.
What a game. Yeah.
Oh, you watched it?
I saw the highlights. I didn't watch a game. So I saw the highlights. And I mean, Lucas, obviously that's a game. The Boston and New York have 2 probably the most improved players in the league that you didn't know were going to be stars and are now stars in Jaylen Brown and Randall. I mean, so Jaylen Brown is like a bona fide star. I mean, he looked like a all NBA first team guy last night. He was hitting shit from half court. I mean,
dude, he was in front of our face hitting them. And then Julius would come down and hit a 3. But I will tell you, we have not had, and I don't know what this kid Fournier is going to be, but I also know Fournier dropped 30 on America in the Olympics this year. Like the kid that French kid's got a smooth shot. And he had 3 in a row in overtime. And I think it was a little bit because Boston let him go. So it was nice to see him. Like, you could tell he was fired up to be like, fuck you, you let me go. But we lose that game. And I watched a lot of Knicks last year. We lose that game without a guy that gives Randall a break, because Randall even admitted after the game, Randall was done. Randall had no fucking leg. That kid Fournier had like 14 points. And after overtime, he had 32. So, but you know what? Listen, man, defense wins all. Defense wins all. The Giants don't have defense. That's why they stink. Defense is everything. And a Tom Thibodeau team will at least play defense. And if that gets you to a first round or so, at least we're watching something. At least we're watching something good. Now, let me ask you a question. Before we wrap this puppy up here, we got to talk about, I bought a Lexus with my wife. without my wife knowing with you. I bought a gun without my wife knowing with you. I want another dog. I don't know if you're going to be a part of that. Just showing up. But just tell the people, like, living up here with your wife and daughter, what's it going to take for you ever to go back to New York City? Will that ever happen?
No, it's never going to happen. No, they'll have to drag me out. The particular area that we live, there's not many left like it in the country. You're one of those guys where, like, you just, like, good things just happen around you, like you just make, you make good fun choices. You're a guy who knows how to live life and is having a good time while he's down here. And that energy and that kind of flow just brings great things. I mean, you stumbled on a gym. I knew it the first time I came and visited you. I mean, you can tell your audience right now about from the first time I was coming up there, I was coming to your house. I was enamored by the area, and I was making jokes about how I'm going to move up there. And then I did. And that was 8 years ago. So
wait, when you say, and I appreciate you saying that, what you said about me, but what do you mean? Oh, while I'm down here, like on Earth? Is that what you mean? While I'm on Earth?
Yeah. When you're down here on Earth, you're winning. If there's a way to win in life, you're winning in life. You figured it out, because it's all about balance. It's all about enjoying life. It's all about having a good time. Otherwise, it's like the number one thing that people say on their deathbeds when you talk to a hospice nurse. The number one thing they say is, I wish I didn't work so much. And that's an American disease. That's a uniquely American disease. And we're so ethnocentric, it's like, we don't even know that Europe is free. I mean, Joe Rogan gave that whole speech. I love him to death, but he's like, democracy is the only place that we've had freedom. It's like, Joe, I mean, all of Europe is free. Ancient Greece, democracy and republic have been around for a long time. But in Europe, they don't. That's one thing I admire about Europe, is they try to live a little bit more of a balanced life. Like, maybe it's because they've been around longer. They know that, like, hey man, you die at the end. Yeah. It's one of my favorite lines in No Refunds, Doug Stanhope. He's like, they tell you to work hard. He's like, don't work hard, stupid. He's like, don't they tell you die at the end? It's like, so, in Europe, they have a month for maternity leave. They get a month of holiday every year. They get healthcare. They get certain things that make life and stress less.
Yeah, they leave in America, like, for lunch. Yeah, like for lunch they have that. Yeah. They
have siestas. In America, it's like, if you're not working, we always lead our conversations here with, what do you do? What's your job? It's like, like I was saying before, all these guys are like, you got to grind, you got to work hard. It's like, if that's your passion, work hard, but, like, don't work yourself to death. You have to find balance and enjoy life. And that's the key. And so good things always come around. You found, like, this place is a gem, and we live amongst, like, some of the richest people in the world have property where we are. And it's like, and they came here not because it was so expensive, but because of the natural beauty of the place that you can't find in a lot of places.
Well, I agree. I 100% agree. And the thing is, like, that's what it is. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't find balance. And people always would say that to me, be like, man, you have a good balance. And with balance comes sacrifice. With balancing things means you need to, it means when you're balancing something, you're literally doing this. So not everything could go here and not everything could go here. But when you get the riches of both here, and that is good. I mean, and Tyson Fury, the boxer, the heavyweight champion who just beat Deontay Wilder, he goes, I got millionaire and billionaire friends that just are not happy. There are people, if your family, I know, and it's funny, all this corny cliche shit comes out, but when it comes out, it's just because it's true. People always say, oh, corny cliche, but corny cliche shit, it's funny how you always have to preface it by saying that, because that's what's true. And the truth is, your family, your health, I'm a big kid.
Health is number one. Yeah.
Who goes to doctors more than me? You know what I mean? So it's like,
head to toe. You're bad. You're actually a burden on the healthcare system.
I like what you said. You go, Virzi gets detailed.
You get detailed every year. You're going for a full detail. I'm talking about you get CAT scan. You get examined you get examined the way somebody who's been told that they have a tumor gets examined. Nobody's ever told you you got anything, but you go, you know what? Let me go in and let me go make sure. You got the cleanest. You should be the most anxiety-free. I mean, you've been looked at in and out. You've had scopes put in every orifice. You've been put in machines. I mean, there is a fucking full catalogs of pictures of every part of your insides. You are crispy clean. You go in for a detail. Yeah.
Yeah. But listen, man, and I'm big on, like the greatest thing, man, like the greatest thing in the world is like going to Madison Square Garden last night with my son and just seeing the smile on his face going to opening night and just being like, dude, this is life. And money and career and all that stuff is fantastic. But dude, living in the country, having that, and I'll tell all my listeners, dude, put your feet up, smoke the stick, and fucking, I said it in my act too. I go, my daughter asked for a hamster. And I go, yeah, we're all going to die. We're all going to die, dude. And it's a sad thing, but you gotta live. You gotta live.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. I do believe in working hard. I do believe in working hard and being tenacious in order to get goals. But at the same time, it just has to be smart. You have to do it smart and you have to do it balanced and you have to make sure that the important things in your life don't lack doing that, because there's nothing worse than seeing somebody who's doing well and they don't see their kids and they're not around their family. That's a fucked up thing, you know? And I think I would say to anybody, no matter what you're doing, your kids will feel that. Your kids will feel that. Your kids will say things to you like this. How fucking crazy is this? Your kids will say, Dad, are you glad that I was there? Dad, did I make it like worse for you? Like they know, kids know when you feel a certain way. That's why one of the greatest, Yannis, one of the greatest two of the greatest quotes ever come from John Wooden. And John Wooden said, the two greatest things he said, and I live by them. I live by this is, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. And every single time I'm about to do something big, whether it's a big show, whether it's doing something in my personal life, being prepared and being ready for that moment. And the second thing he said, which I found incredible, and his quotes are all over the wall in Springfield, Massachusetts at the Basketball Hall of Fame. But he said, the greatest thing somebody can do for their children, the greatest thing a father can do for their children is love their mother. And dude, that is like when
they don't make it easy.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't see the fucking fight before that screaming match or what she did. You know, it's hard to give a hug after that shit. Yeah.
They definitely don't make it easy. I tell you what, these broads, they don't make it fucking easy. They got a list of demands constantly.
You're a kid that came in the game late too, by the way. You came in. Yannis
I caught the last train. Yeah.
That's one of my favorites. Yannis caught the last train out of like family life. But like this kid is now married. What? You're married 3 years?
Going on 3. It'll be 3 in a couple months.
Okay. A couple months. You're married 3 years. Beautiful baby girl. I mean, you got in the game late. Coach said we need somebody, blew a whistle, and then you came running off. I mean,
yeah, but you know, having a kid in your 40s nowadays ain't that bad because, you know, people live longer. So it's like you gotta factor in like, how long am I gonna live with this woman? You know? So it's like, you know, when you go, and I'm just joking. I mean, I love my wife to death. We have the best relationship, but you know, it's you know, marriage takes work and it's good work. Like all things that are worth it, you got to put work into it. And so I kid, but since people are living longer, I mean, having a kid in your 40s when you're a guy, if I live, like, hopefully I live into my 80s, you know, that'll work out. That'll work out fine. So now that I've had the kid, I think everything happened perfect. That's the thing about having a kid too, because you feel this sense of, you feel this destiny about it. You feel like, oh, this is the kid I was supposed to have, because you love the kid so much that you couldn't imagine your life any other way, because then it would be a different kid. So the kid is the reward for all the mistakes you've made.
Yeah.
Because you know it led you to that kid.
Yes. Yes, and that's why people a lot of times cry when their kid is born, their first one's born. But let me ask you this. Do you find it weird that I know your dad was old when you were born and then you did the same thing? And I find it weird that like my, we follow the path of our parents. Sometimes we don't even know. You want to laugh?
Oh yeah.
My dad loves sedans. And like from when I was like 16, 17, I'd go look for a car and they'd be like, what do you want? And I'd be like, dude, I was looking at Buicks and shit. Like I'm talking about like I was a young kid and like, you know me. I mean, nobody loves a 4-door sedan that coasts down the road like a boat. And I realized my dad was like that. My dad would always go, oh yeah, big wheelbase. My dad likes white leather. I like white leather. There's certain things, you know what I noticed? My dad used to eat and we would eat together. And then when we were done eating, right? And I'm talking about, I'm like Lucas's age. And my dad would go, come for a walk with me. And he would go to a candy store and he would just grab a piece of chocolate. He would grab like one of those fun sized chocolates. And I would go, what? And he would, yeah, you just need a little something. So like, but I find myself doing that. And some of the things he ate, York peppermint patties, junior mints, but even like raisinets. These are all things that I thought were gross as a kid. And now I find myself after a meal, I'm going, oh, you know, the York peppermint patty really fucking washes it down. We follow our parents, and your father was older when he had you and you were older when you had your daughter. It's kind of weird how that cycle goes in life.
We're no different from an updated iPhone. You know, our parents are like the iPhone 11 and we're like the iPhone 13, but we're still an iPhone. I mean, we're made out of his ball. You know, it's like we're made from their DNA. Most things are genetic. You know, most things are just genetic. I mean, free will, there's only a certain amount of free will you have. The rest of it is just anatomically anchored and predestined to your genes. You know, it's like I could want to be a 100-yard dash runner all I want. It's not in the genes. I could never be an elite 100-yard dash runner. You know, it's
but
like
something has to break the cycle, right? Because if there was a family that didn't have an athlete, but then down the road did, and then does that mean then that family starts? Because in 100 years, in 200 years, somebody became something athletic in that family.
The potential had to be there though in the genes. So whether that person unlocked it with their will and their passion, that's what I believe.
Okay.
But it has to have been there in the will. I mean,
somebody loved it so much. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but the potential also had to be there. So it had to be a combination of the two. I mean, let's think of some of our fat friends. I mean, you know, like some people just genetically are prone to be fatter because their parents were fatter and so on and so forth. Yeah. Maybe if they were so passionate about getting in shape, maybe their kids would be more athletic and be able to unlock something and pass it on. That's what I believe. Science doesn't know that. That's a theory, but it's got to be something to that. Because you're right. At some point,
it breaks.
You know, you look at Michael Jordan. There's nobody big in his family. Everyone's short,
right?
And then he ends up being 6'6", and he has a late growth spurt. The potential for that had to be there in his genes, but he must have maybe unlocked that with his will and his passion and his competitiveness. And he just like it unlocks something.
I remember hearing something in my family going, yeah, you know, like we all liked our leisure. Everybody liked our leisure and everybody relaxed and everybody kind of, I think it's a Mediterranean thing. Like you said, Mediterranean people like to, I think that's why they have a fiesta or whatever. Like Mediterranean people like that coffee, that cafe, that free time, that European and Mediterranean people just like time off. They just like time off. But I think what breaks that is, like you said, I think your Jordan example, it's like, no, dude, I got to do something a little more for whatever reason. He was so pissed off at his brother beating him. You know that, right? How wild is that? He was so upset. I think his brother Larry or something was the only one to beat him. And then he fucking sprouted up and became like what he became. But like, there's no doubt in my mind he was destined for that. And he probably just broke the cycle of a family, which can happen. I'm sure it could happen. Like, you know, does a nerdy family all have just doctors and it never changes?
For the most part, I mean, that's how it goes. I mean, look at it. My father-in-law, his son's going to be a doctor. He's got 3 nephews that are doctors. So it's in there. I mean, look at Jesse Scatoro, my producer on Long Days, my podcast.
Love Jesse.
His dad is an artist and a sculptor, and Jesse's an artist and a sculptor. He didn't go to school for it. He just had the natural ability for it. I don't have that ability. My dad was like a painter and stuff. My dad did a lot of things, but I have an artistic ability. I certainly didn't get my artistic ability from my mom because she had 0% of that.
Yeah.
So I got it from my dad. It came out in comedy, but and like writing, but it's in the genes. It's in the genes. I actually did the 23andMe, and I looked at a lot of my genes. I got some interesting stuff that I found out.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm just sticking with, I'm Sicilian.
You don't want to know?
I'm Sicilian Greek. I'm staying Sicilian Greek. I don't even, it's too much to talk about at party. I'm Sicilian and Greek, but how funny is it? This is real funny. How funny is it that when you see a fat Italian kid, this is really funny. When you see a fat Italian kid at a Knicks game and he's yelling and he's just a fat Italian kid, how funny is it that deep down in his genes, he could be a sculptor? Right? Those Italian kids that are just like, and it's funny that like Italian kids like that, like they're good mechanics. They could take apart an engine. You know how hard that is? Like they're like the Mediterranean. My brother-in-law, my sister Carissa's husband, that kid, if you give that kid tiles, that kid will retile a bathroom that could be in like Caesar's palace and just do it like perfectly measured perfectly. And he's just an Italian kid who loves making pasta at home. It's fucking hilarious, dude.
Yeah. You look at certain ethnic groups are good at certain things, and some of that's genetic, and there's no way to hide from that. You look at there's certain athletic genes that either you have or you don't have. One is for endurance. One is for like quick bursts of power that make you a better sprinter. It's like a fast twitch or slow twitch type of muscle tissue or something. They know all this shit. And like certain ethnic groups, have genetically that they don't have the other one. And then the other ones have more power and strength. That's why it's not a coincidence when you look at like those strongman competitions. It's always like Norwegian guys and German guys, and they're all like the Russian guys from up there, guys. Yeah, they're just strong, big fucking Vikings, but then they're like slow. You look at you look at the what is it? Who's always the marathon runners? And not the
the Kenyans.
The Kenyans. It's like that's not a coincidence. They have that endurance. It's genetic. It's like they have just they're just their genes, they have advantages in those things, and it ends up manifesting itself in different sports.
What about Italian kids and food? Is that a genetic? Is that?
It's gotta be.
Like it, right? Like, because food's a different animal. Food is not a physical activity. Food is not creative, but it kind of is, right? Kind of creative.
Gotta be. And when it comes to Greeks, one thing I notice is also cultural, which I think maybe gets in the genes. I don't know, but because maybe culture gets in the genes somehow. But Greeks we were slaves for 400 years. Our ancestors were slaves to the Ottomans, to the Muslim Ottomans for about roughly about 400 years. And so Greeks don't want to work for anybody. That's something I've noticed amongst people who were enslaved, like their fathers or grandfathers were enslaved or something. We have this kind of disrespect for authority that I don't think is just necessarily an individual personality. I think it's something that's cultural. Like you want to own your time. You want to be your own boss because you want to compensate for your parents or grandparents being enslaved. It may not even be conscious, because that's why Greeks always own their own joints. Greeks love to own their own joints. It's one of their number one favorite things to do because they want to be their own boss. My dad, look at me. It's the way I even approach comedy. Like I was never comfortable unless I was doing it myself. And that must be because I'm Greek in some way.
Well, I remember one time you and my mom, who, you get along. My mother's Greek, and she talks.
I mean, who doesn't get along with your mom? If it wasn't for your mom, you'd be out stealing hubcaps.
Yeah, I mean, the criminality's there for sure.
It's just there.
My mom's Greek watered it down. That's 100%. But
yeah, you can't go pure. You can't go pure uncut Sicilian. It's too much. You got to water it down with something.
It's too much. It's like pure cocaine. You just can't.
Yeah, you got it. You can't.
but my mom and you were talking one time, and I found it interesting that you both said that you show up late to things. And you both were like a little late. And then you said, you go, the reason why I was late, and I remember my mom, I think, like shaking her head agreeing with you, is like, Greeks look at it like, I'm coming. You're not telling me when I'm coming.
It's a little bit of that. It's a little bit of owning your own
Which is
time.
really wild, though, because it's like,
Yeah.
why? Because that's taking it really far.
Yeah, I mean, there's an expression, Greek time. You know, you look at enslaved, like I've noticed the similarities between Black people and Greek people, that you know, it's like in the language, in the way, like the musical language, a lot of cursing. Like Greeks would be like, "What's up, motherfucker?" You know, they and Greeks would be like, "Tikaris malaka malaka malaka." It's kind of a similar thing. We also have Greek time, is a stereotype about Greeks, that they're always late. You obviously have CP time. That's a joke about Black people. It's I think it has something to do with being a member of a marginalized group who gets their freedom. And then, you know, when you're marginalized or you're enslaved, when you are free and you have opportunities, I think you appreciate them more, and it means more to you. Time just means more to you, and freedom just means more to you, because your people didn't have it for so long. And that's kind of culturally passed down, subconsciously or not. I mean, you know, conscious or subconscious. I mean, whether you heard stories about it from your grandparents or whatever, but you know, my granddad was born, my granddad was a straight slave. He was an oppressed minority on an island of Imbros, living under occupation as a slave, as a second-class citizen. And had to, you know, be sent to Egypt to sort of escape that oppression. Never saw his family again. That was his life. That's very foreign to us, but you know, that has to be in me somehow, because that's only one generation away from me. You know, it's like, you saw my dad. My dad didn't work for anybody. He had his own business. He did everything himself. And so I'm sure that is, it's in there a little bit. Maybe it takes a couple generations to wear that kind of fuck you off. We have this thing where we're like, fuck you. Greeks have this thing. We always got our middle fingers up. Like Greeks are always like, fuck you.
I've seen that in my mom, especially when she was younger, where she would just get real turned off. And if she was turned off by something, it was just like that whole fuck you thing. And Italians have it too. I'll end with this, man. We do take negative things, though, which is not good. A Sicilian thing is, if you do us wrong, and I've seen it for real. And I know it's funny and people laugh, but like, I've seen family members not talk for till the last time they'll see each other is a funeral. And like, it's something that I want to break from, because it's like, you have to kind of be, I'm not trying to disrespect my ancestors, my family, but it does come a point where it's like, is a little ignorant, where it's like, look, I understand. Listen, if you do me wrong, you know me, Yannis, well, if you do me wrong, it's tough for me. It's tough for me. And I pick and choose who's written off forever or who's not. But at the same time, it can't be silly. Like, I've seen Sicilian things be like silly, like think something was an insult when it's not. And so like, I try to catch myself. I have my friends go, dude, that's a little crazy. So you got to, as good as you, as nice as it is to take the good things from what you genetically are, you also have to look back and go, okay, that was, even though it's my family, I want to kind of change that tradition.
I have a lot to say on this.
Okay.
Because I think Greeks and Italians are the biggest when it comes to vendettas. And
that's number one. That they're number
one for both.
I would say
groups.
Number 1 and 2 in any order. Number 1 and 2.
So, and I have noticed the difference. Okay, now when it comes to Italians, I think Italians, it can be silly stuff. I think Italians is more silly, and I think Italians is more overt. It's more overt. It's more harder. The vendetta is more overt. It's harder. And I think it burns out quicker. I think Greeks are the goats at it. Greeks will go generations. Greeks never let it die. Greeks aren't like overt. Greeks will actively plot and plan, like, whereas Italians will just write you off and go like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Greeks will, it's a game to Greeks, where Greeks go, Greeks go, because Greeks are so passionate, and there's this thing, they have this thing called philotimo, which is we have this thing philotimo, which you embody. It's in the culture.
Yeah.
And it's a thing to be very prideful about. Greeks is the philotimo is like, and there's no real translation to it, but it's like honor, honesty, family, friendship, hospitality, all those things in there. So when we feel like somebody has, because we give, like when we feel like somebody has done it, and sometimes they have, there's people who do that, then it's like, if you got a Greek in your life, they're either your best friends or they're beyond your worst enemies. They're beyond your worst enemies. It's like you're haunted. Greeks will haunt you. Yeah. And Greeks they take it. I don't even think they go on. I don't even think on the deathbed they go. I don't even think and I don't think it's hate. I think they go, let's just keep it going to the next generation. Let's just keep it going. No.
When I said funeral, I meant they went to the funeral, but I don't know if there was closure, but no, I agree. But you just touched on something that's really, that I know that I have, and that I have, it is, I like to give. But the problem is when I give, whether it's my friendship, whether it's my loyalty, whether it's my wisdom to help somebody with advice, when I give that, if it's done wrong, if that's betrayed, it's just really, really hard for me. It's really, really hard for me.
Well, your Greek is Sicilian, so you got a double whammy.
Well, I was going to say your wife is Sicilian too. And
my wife, my wife does it I think more the Italian way. They're done. They're dead. That's the difference right there. They're done. They're dead to me. Greeks, they're not. Yeah, Greeks are not dead to you. Greeks is like you have an active enemy. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah,
that's how Greeks do it. Like I've watched Greeks do it my whole life. It's like it's an active enemy.
So the Greeks,
you may not even know it.
The Greeks almost the Greeks almost want they want this. They almost want the enemy, and they want the fight, and they want the war, where Italians, it's just a head cut off.
It's you're just dead. I don't think about you anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas Greeks, now the part of the Greek, what the Greek thinks about is like you're not being well. Is right. You know what I mean? It's like it's part, and the Greeks don't actively fight. Like, it's like it's more like Greeks will cooperate with nature. They'll talk to God. I mean, they'll go to church and do the icon and say, I hope that they get cancer. And like, they just keep, it's just, it's an active enemy.
Pure malice.
Yeah. It's pure malice. My wife goes, he cuts you off, like, boom. Yeah. And I kind of do that too. I'm just like, I don't think about you. It's over.
The Greek way is exhausting. The Greek way is exhausting. I'd rather do it the Italian way.
But it's also motivating, and it's also one Greek friend I had. His name was Panos. He was hilarious, dude. It's my friend from college, and my character Panos is partly based on him, like a little bit. It's an amalgamation of people, but he's in there.
Yeah.
And he once said one of the funniest things I've ever heard. He goes, "Hate is an underestimated emotion. It's not all negative. Hate, when you hate things that are bad, then I think hate is good. It's like you can't. This whole, like, you have to reject bad things, and it's okay to hate certain bad things.
Sure, of course.
So this whole thing of like, the people who just, you can't be someone who's walked all over your entire life. You got to set boundaries.
You have to fight back.
You got to fight back. So it's like, the thing is, my advice to anyone listening to this is, do not fuck with Greeks. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. If you're a rascal and you feel like you fuck people over, don't be around Greeks.
Yeah.
Just don't. I mean, look at the way Greeks fight, even in war. Like Greeks are a mess during peacetime.
300? I mean, that's crazy.
I mean, there's so many examples. Even World War II, it's like when the Greeks defeated the Italians, a country, 100 times their size. I think Italy's like 10 times the size of Greece, more than that. I mean, the way that they fought the Nazis. I mean, Greeks fight defensively. Even in Korea, the American generals of NATO would always compliment the way the Greeks defended. When Greeks are unified with a common enemy, they're fierce. They fight. They fight.
Yeah.
And so Greeks are an interesting bunch. And you look at the way they defend. There's the Greeks defend, like Greeks were conquered, like I say, like the rest of that area where you go to those areas, there's tons of remnants. This is true. You can see mosques. You see there's a lot of people who converted. There's certain parts of the Eastern Bloc that are full Muslim, you know, like fully, they're all Muslim now. You go to Greece, the Muslims conquered Greece for 400 years, very recently, since the turn of the last century. You go to Greece, there is no trace of it. The closest you'll get is like baklava. And then the Greeks will argue that baklava is theirs. So, you know, it's like there's very few traces. There's nothing in the culture. Like there's nothing that the Greeks took. I mean, about 400 years back, that's a long time. People only living to, you know, maybe 60 something. It's a lot, it's many generations. And culturally, the Greeks just reject it all. So it's like they just somehow reject the culture, the philosophy of their conquerors, whereas you see other people who are conquered kind of assimilate into what this. So that's adapt. A deep level. Yeah, there's a deep level of pride to Greeks that is can be a Greek's worst enemy, but also biggest virtue in some ways.
Could benefit well. Man, this is awesome, man. This
don't fuck with Greeks, people. It's not worth Greeks.
Dude. That was so funny, man. Before I know the clip of this podcast, but guys, man, that's my dude Yannis Pappas, one of the funniest, one of the most talented. You guys know his amazing YouTube channel with his amazing characters, his amazing stand-up, and Yannis's Long Days podcast, which you could get on iTunes, you could get on Spotify, everywhere you get your podcast. Get the Long Days podcast. So interesting, smart, while being funny all together. So check that out. Yanni, you got any dates or anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I will be in I'll be in Phoenix. I'll be in Timonian, Maryland, outside of Baltimore, Tampa. Just go to YannisPappasComedy.com for my dates. And also I have a sports podcast called Unleashed on with BetMGM. If you're a sports fan, check that out. But most importantly, my podcast, Long Days, you can go subscribe on YouTube, Long Days with Yannis Pappas. That's my main show. So I hope you enjoy it.
Yes. And I want to thank all the new listeners, guys. The Virzi Effect has grown like 4 times in the last 6 months. So I want to thank all you new listeners who are listening to the Virzi Effect. Thank you for jumping aboard. And you could get the Virzi Effect on iTunes, Spotify, everywhere that you get your podcasts. I'm having more amazing guests like Yannis. And also, you guys know I fly solo sometimes. So right now I'm taking some time off. I'm off for a little bit. The tour is over. We're working on the special, which should be out early next year. And that's it. So check it out. Also check out Anything Better podcast and the NFL segment that we do with me, Bill Burr. We do an NFL segment also for BetMGM, which is great. I love their lines, and make sure you support them as well. Until next week, I am out of here. This has been Virzi Effect 513. See you guys next week. Thanks, Yanni.